Time now for a look at what's happening in the business. Anka Ulia joins me now. We're starting off in the UK, Anka, where all eyes are on those Brexit negotiations.
Yes, so the triggering of Article 50 is only a couple of days away. But some British startups say they're already feeling instability as young European entrepreneurs start looking outside the UK to launch their careers. Here's Alexander Hurst with more.
For this British web design startup, London may be home, but Berlin is the future. When Britain voted to leave the European Union, MBJ decided to move its headquarters and accelerated a planned expansion into Germany.
We wanted to expand in the German-speaking regions, but I think one of the reasons why we did it a bit quicker than we initially planned was because of the uncertainty that the Brexit, obviously brought.
Today, London is Europe's startup capital, but MBJ's founders think that other startups might follow them to the continent.
I believe that if Berlin does it right, if Berlin plays its cards right, in the next 5 years, Berlin could be that startup capital. You have the talent here, you have the companies, and you have I would say right now after Brexit, a bit more stability in Berlin than in the UK.
According to a new survey by Tech London advocates, 1 in 10 London startups say that they are having increased difficulty raising funds from investors. And 2/3 of tech business leaders think that Brexit will damage London's position as a global tech hub. As banks prepare emergency plans to relocate certain activities to within the Eurozone, access to European financial markets isn't the only concern, so is access to Europe's talent pool, if freedom of movement for workers is cut off.
Well, next, let's turn to Kuwait, where oil producers met over the weekend.
Yes, so back in December, a group of leading oil producers, including the OPEC nations, Russia, Venezuela, and Oman, agreed to limit supply for the first half of the year in a bid to boost crude oil prices. This weekend, the question was whether they would extend that supply cap for another 6 months. The Joint Committee of Ministers agreed to review the deal, but that first countries needed to prove that they were committed. Let's listen to Kuwait's oil minister speaking on Sunday.
We agreed to ask the other countries for greater respect for the deal next month, to give more importance to the agreement. We have reduced shipping to the United States and Europe, and we will reduce it further because our interests are greater in the countries of Eastern Asia than in the United States and in Europe.
All right, Anka, talk us through how things are trading on the markets today.
So Asian markets are retreating at the start of the week, mostly due to Friday's late upset after Donald Trump failed to push his health bill through U.S. Congress. Investors are concerned that he won't be able to deliver on other promises like tax cuts and infrastructure spending, and the markets are definitely feeling the uncertainty today. So as you can see, the Asian markets, the Nikkei is down nearly 1.5%, Hong Kong down nearly 0.25%, and Seoul's Kospi down 0.3%. Shanghai is the only one that's hanging on in the green, but it's pretty close to the flat line. So now it's time for some other business news making headlines around the world. Uber has suspended its ambitious driverless car program after one of its self-driving vehicles crashed in Arizona. No serious injuries were reported in that accident, which took place late on Friday, but Uber has still said that all driverless operations will be stopped in Arizona, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco pending an ongoing investigation into the crash. On Sunday, Iran announced sanctions on 15 U.S. companies it says flagrantly violate human rights and support terrorism. This is just 2 days after the U.S. imposed its own sanctions on 11 companies it says could boost Tehran's ballistic missile program. The sanctions are largely symbolic, as the companies, which range from real estate to arms manufacturing, have no clear ties to Iran. And United Airlines has faced a storm on Twitter this weekend after it refused to let 2 teenage girls on a flight because they were wearing leggings. The company defended its decision, saying the leggings violated the dress code for so-called pass travelers, which include United employees and their families.
Leggings. Okay, interesting there. All right, and finally, Anka, some news that got environmentalists in New Zealand pretty upset.
Yeah, so New Zealand's government has approved for millions of liters of water to be extracted from 2 glacial lakes in its southern Alps. It's part of a scheme by an export company to sell bottled water to markets in China, India, and the Middle East. They're marketing this water as untouched by man and plan to pump it through a 20-kilometer-long pipeline. Obviously, a whole lot of Kiwis are not happy about this project. The two lakes in question are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and New Zealand is known for its beautiful landscapes. So green groups are now demanding that the government call off the project and protect the nation's freshwater lakes and springs. We'll see how this all plays out.
We will indeed. We'll keep a close eye on that. Anke Ulia, thank you very much for the Business Roundup.